Concertina does it for me. How can I resist? Here we are again, vk3sl at the helm, and we're testing here on 160 and on UHF. Welcome to the afternoon session, and we are finally tuning up and getting organised here. Been a busy day at the coalface, but I did have a couple of hours off in the middle of the day, and I spent that time moving stuff away from shelves to get to a bottom shelf, the proverbial lower shelf that never gets checked. And I remember from years back that in that shelf there's a lot of historic Australian recordings which haven't seen the light of day really since the 1980s. So been working through them and extracted them, put them into a crate and have them here, and it's been quite a process of discovery. So we'll play one of them now. This is one of the rare records in the collection here. It's a recording made in 1927. It's the 2FC Studio Dance Orchestra, recorded in Sydney, and it's with Len Maurice on the vocals, and you've got a black bottom. vk3sl, testing. '20s dance band music, recorded in Sydney in 1927. The 2FC Studio Dance Orchestra with Eric Pearce. 2FC, of course, was an independent station at that point, before the ABC took over 2FC. When was that? 29, I think. And if my memory serves me correct, 2FC goes back to about 1923. So, and Farmer and Co., I think. There we go. There's my meandering on the subject. And yeah, that's quite a special record, that, and I'd forgotten it was here. And it was a nice discovery to make. It's in terrible condition, but it sort of comes up okay. It's, what else can they tell us? Len Maurice was the vocal on that. On the other side, there's a track called It Was Your Hat, Your Little Blue Hat. And these are early records made for Columbia. Another one with Len Maurice. Oh, shall I save it up for tomorrow? Maybe I'll save it. No, we'll play it today. Since the record's here, then I can shelve it away again. Let's hear it. It's With Your Blue Hat. vk3sl, testing.
Your little blue hat that made me fall in love with you. You turned my skies from grey to blue and made me feel that paradise was very near. I like your style, your smile, to give me a trial. I'm sure that you will like me too. Some fellows fall for girls with wonderful eyes, but something else made me want you for my prize. It was your hat, your little blue hat that made me fall for you.
Recording from Innocent Times. Music of the 2FC Studio Dance Orchestra in Sydney, 1927, off an old Columbia. Fairly rare record. You don't see that record around. In fact, I've never seen it anywhere else. But
if her hat was the best thing about her, the rest of it couldn't have been too good.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm sure what his working criteria were, but I think he needs some help.
Yes, I think he might. Yes, he's meandering around the topic a little bit there. And
I think he was. I mean, she's going to take that off eventually.
I think that has to come off. That's part and parcel. How are you faring?
Surprisingly well.
Okay.
I haven't even. I've got the big morphine, but I'm not having that. I'm seeing if I can manage without it.
Okay.
Got
Sure.
some lesser lights, but they seem to be doing the job.
Okay, fair enough. And you're sort of feeling like you've the pain's under some control, or you?
Yes, getting some control. I want to see how much I can get.
Yeah.
With this, and I'll keep this other stuff for kind of emergencies.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh gosh, I wish you well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but I'm feeling. I mean, the thing about avoiding the heavy stuff is that it doesn't zap your brain.
Well, that's the problem with morphine. It has a. It really does alter your reality.
Quite a nice sort of soporific. I can understand why people kind of get to like it.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I had a couple of major, well, not major, but health issues earlier on, and on the endone, and that stuff has really does affect your perception of the world. And in small doses, yes, it quietens everything, nulls everything, And then I remember when I was on the heavier stuff, I started to get paranoid and hallucinate and have all sorts of really horrible reactions to that. But that's probably a different product to what you have prescribed. But it sounds like you're doing well without it, which is really good.
Yeah, it's just it's endone. But
Oh yeah.
I remember the first time I had it when I was a kid. I'd had my tonsils out. I was 12 and I'd hemorrhaged. Cut to the chase. They gave me morphine.
Yes.
And I felt so good. After about half an hour, I started to float up towards the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is just amazing. And I felt so good. I called the nurse in
Yes.
and said, I feel fantastic. And she said, no more morphine for you, Sonny Jim.
Oh, is that what she said? Oh, what a party pooper.
No.
Killed your thrill. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Do you know, I had the opposite experience with
Yes, I
it.
heard. My mum used to get very sick on it.
Yeah, I remember when I was having my op a couple of years ago. The endone, it was so strong that I felt like I became paranoid that I'd stop breathing and that I'd never breathe again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember calling the nurse in and saying, I think I'm going to stop breathing and I won't be able to start again. And I'm feeling really frightened. And she assured me that it was all okay. But yes, it's funny how you sort of react to these things. But I suppose in small controlled doses, it can be a really helpful way to manage when the pain's unbearable. But is there a sort of a global, I mean, I don't want to be too, ask too many questions, but is there sort of a good pathway and you've got a good doctor and everything and you're feeling confident about that?
Yeah. I told him how I was feeling, and he sort of hit not the panic button, but he hit the all alerts out button and prescribed several things.
Yeah, sure. So you've got contingencies.
Just to see. I'm on an anti-inflammatory and a pain reliever and a thing for sleeping.
Yes, sure. Oh, well, all the very best with it, Frank. It was quite a shock to hear that.
Morphine before an operation, I found it really good. It calmed me down. I thought it was all very exciting. It was very nice.
Yeah, you had a good morphine experience.
That's right. And then I remember when I spent 9, I broke my arm and I had ether, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that was really sent you on spiralling trip, and then I was sick as a dog afterwards.
Yes.
So I think that's not very. I don't think I ever use it anymore.
No.
That's why when I had my tonsils out, I hemorrhaged, and that was because I was sick from the ether.
Oh,
well, you would
really?
think that'd be right, wouldn't you?
Oh, gosh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a.
Well, this was
response.
many years ago. I hope they still don't use it.
Yeah, you don't hear them using
Foul
it.
stuff.
Maybe
It's good for starting those old aeroplane engines.
It's a bull.
Diesel, I must admit, that Aerostart's just ether in a can. Start stubborn engines or lawnmowers, and you have a little sniff of that. It's just a little bit. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's certain types of glue that do a bit for you.
Yeah, nothing like a bit of petrol sniffing just to get going for the day. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Not to mention nitrous oxide from the cream puff bulbs.
Oh.
I tried that fairly solidly when I was at the birth of David. It was there for Kathy, and I said I might just try this. There was no one stopping me, so I did. And a little bit light-headed, but I don't think I had enough to do the cream puff thing. Certainly that's pretty big in certain circles.
Yeah. The good thing about it only lasts about 30 seconds per. So if you just stop it, it stops, and there's no lasting effect. So it's,
that's what you want. Not something that's going to lay you low for ages or give you a bad reality trip.
No, they're good. I think those puffs bulbs. I don't know if you can still get them, but they're very good.
That's actually that's amyl nitrate.
Ah.
Used for whipping cream, or for giving the effect of whipped cream.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is quite a trip. We're getting a few sort of.
You should play some psychedelic.
Yeah, we should move into. Yeah, well, that has the same effect. That can send you somewhere. Bit of psychedelic rock. We could go down that path. I was going to play another couple of Australian records because I've been delving and found these discs. Here's one with. Len Maurice again, and from 1930, and it probably doesn't need any introduction, but I was quite pleased to find this record in the collection here. So, and I think it's in reasonable nick. We'll see. Let's have a listen.
Don Bradman.
Who is it that all Australia raves about? Who has won our very highest praise? Now is it Amy Johnson or little Mickey Mouse? No, it's just a country lad who's bringing down the house, and he's our Don Bradman. Now I ask you, is he any good? Our Don Bradman. As the batsman he can sure lay on the wood, for when he goes into bat he knocks every record flat, for there isn't anything he cannot do. Our Don Bradman, every Aussie dips his lid to you. Now I ask you, is he any good? Our Don Bradman. As a batsman he is certainly plump good. Tate and Law would meet their fate, for it's always shut the gate when the boy from Barrel hits 4 after 4. Our Don Bradman, what a welcome waits for you back home.
Hey,
Here we go. Yes.
was that Jack O'Hagan right there?
Yes, he did. Yes, it's a Jack O'Hagan tune, and Lynn Maurice on the vocals. He was sort of Australia's Bing Crosby in the 20s and early 30s, and that's under a pseudonym under the name of Art Leonard on that Regal 78. So, yeah.
It's quite good, isn't it?
Oh, it's a bit of fun, you know, yeah, of its times.
Yeah.
The 1930 test, the famous Bodyline series, I think was around that time.
Bodyline was, something like that. 32, I think.
Oh, it was a bit later, was it? Yeah, okay. And on the other side, it's got Hour 11, and that's a Jack Lumsdaine song. But
Okay.
yeah.
More cricket.
Yeah, it's a cricket disc. I tell you what, going through this stack of 20s and 30s Australian records, can't believe how often they sung about flyers. What do they call aeronautical people?
Pilots.
Pilots. Oh, God.
I'm glad that happens to other people.
Oh, my brain's fried. After a day of teaching, I can't even... I'm only 1 millimetre ahead at the best. Yeah, pilots. Famous adventure pilots. And they all get a Guernsey. There's Mr. Hinkler, and there's Amy Johnson, and there's so many recordings about famous aviators who...
That's quite good.
Yeah, who landed on our shores and did big things. I suppose it was the big event in that area.
At one level it sounds a bit corny, but, why not do it?
Yeah, well, I think that back then it was such a novelty, such an extreme form of, exploration, flying and circumnavigating the globe.
I think we were desperate to have our own sort of Australian personality too.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, they certainly get a go. I think one of them's even signed by the aviator in question. It's in this pile here somewhere. Go through it.
While you're looking,
Yeah, it's
the Bradmans are an interesting family.
yeah.
Don's son changed his surname.
Really? Just to sort of break the expectation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And his granddaughter, do you know of Greta Bradman?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, the fine soprano.
Oh, yes. There was a thing about her on the wireless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was on one of Late Night Live or something. Yeah, okay.
She does programs on the weekends on the ABC.
Right.
Not singing herself,
Yeah.
but she has made records.
Yeah.
And I think she sung with the Australian Opera.
Oh, right.
Not sure about that, but she certainly has sung in opera.
Oh, very good. Oh, I didn't
Got a fine
realise.
voice.
I'd quite forgotten that fact. I do remember there was an interview with her, and she talked about her lineage. And of course, Bradman himself was quite a good musician. He played the piano. In fact, he made recordings playing the piano.
Did you really?
Yeah, there's a couple of recordings of Bradman. I think he made them in London. Mr. L knows all about those. And yeah, look, he was a good player. In fact, there's some newsreels of him playing, and he was adept at as a musician as well. So yeah.
Greta went through some bad times in her own head in terms of dealing with the Bradman thing.
Yeah.
And she worked through that and finished up her real profession as she's a trained psychologist.
Oh, is she really? Wow. That's fascinating. Well, I suppose it would be a pretty hard thing to shed. He's sort of, it was even on our national test. If you wanted to get into Australia, you had to know who John Bradman was.
Well, you can't think of anything more important than that.
Unbelievable. Anyhow, there's a lot of Heroes of the Air records, and here's one with Fred Moore. I have no idea who Fred Moore was, with instrumental accompaniment. It's recorded in Sydney about 1930, a bit earlier maybe, 29. On one side we've got Smithy, and on the other side we've got Heroes of the Air. So what do you reckon, Frank? Nominate.
Fly away, let her fly.
Okay, well, we'll have a Heroes of the Air, shall we?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to hear Smithy, though.
Oh, sorry, did you say Smithy? Yeah, let's have a listen to Smithy first.
Charles Kingsford, I guess.
Yes, indeed it is. Let's see what he says. We've got this problem we had last night. One moment.
The RF.
There have been many, but there isn't any who has ever won such endless fame as this famous flyer, England Smith the Friar, who will ring forth his praises in his name. They call him Smithy, the world says Smithy, to every country he's the hero of the day. You can't beat Smithy, 3 cheers for Smithy. Where others tremble, Smithy surely paved the way. Across he flew to Honolulu, then to the prison Sydney saw him fall. The Southern Cross has flown, the Sea King Smith has made great history, the greatest flyer of them all. They call him Smithy, the Walter Smithy. To every country he's the hero of the day. You can't beat Smithy, 3 cheers for Smithy. Where others tremble, Smithy surely paved the way. Across he flew to Honolulu, then to the prison Sydney saw him fall. The Southern Cross has flown, the Sea King Smith has made great history, the greatest flyer of them all.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
Well, it is what it is. Of its times, and what a great out-of-tune violinist, sliding all over the place, trying to find the note. But that's
He got there eventually.
he got there at the end. Yeah, well,
Bit of sliding, that's
yeah,
all right.
that's right. You got to slide round. You got to find your way.
Probably better to leave the bow off until you've found it.
Yes. Well, there we go. That's a bit of Australian nothingness. But anyhow, we'll dig them all up. There's about half a dozen here, records from the 20s, early 30s, all about aviators. They really did get a Guernsey in that time. They were the big celebrated heroes of the times, and we'll follow on. We'll make an aviator theme and play some more. Yeah, but there are a number of interesting records which I'd quite forgotten about. These are the ones that weren't flood damaged, because there was a shelf that the bottom shelf in this particular set of shelves used to be in my folks' garage, and they had a flood, and most of the records were ruined in that bottom shelf, and some of them were sort of put aside, and I think this is the lot that sort of survived the flood. So some of them are a bit wrecked, but they're sort of playable. Anyhow, there's quite a lot of early recordings of Graham Bell's band.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
Yeah, and some of them are quite good. I'm not really into trad revival. I used to be, but this doesn't sort of strike a chord with me as much. I like the original stuff, but I don't know, I think we've talked about this before. It sort of congeals and it's very in your face, and I don't know, I prefer to hear jazz in a more progressive guys, I suppose, in the later periods.
Yeah.
But look, this one jumped out. I had a sample today. It's on an early Swaggy record. It's got the date. It's 1950. And it's a piece in a minor key, and it's called the Irish Black Bottom. And it's a classic. It's the Bell Band.
I've never heard it.
No, either had I. It's the classic Bell Band, but they are playing really, really well. I was listening to it carefully today. I was having a sample, and they complement each other. There's a nice synergy between the players, two trumpet players, and Roger Bell, and I think Aid Monsper is playing trumpet in this as well.
He played a lot of instruments.
Yeah, he was very, very versatile. But I like this piece particularly because it's in a minor key, and I always like jazz in a minor key.
Yeah.
So, here we go, in the groove. Let's have a listen to Irish Black Bottom. There we go, the Irish Black Bottom.
It was good.
Yeah, good fun. And
Yeah,
yeah, and you know, they're quite a polished ensemble. I think they just returned from their big trip. They did their big trip to Czechoslovakia and to the Eastern Bloc countries, didn't they, in 47, 48?
They did. And I think they were very well received.
Yeah, I think it was a big part of a massive trad revival right throughout Europe and America at that time.
Yes.
And they rode the wave. But they had a very distinctive sound, the bell band.
They did with that little clicky percussion thing.
Yes. They just
Block, I think it's a block.
Yeah. That was who was the Jack Banstons on the drums on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, quite effective, and it is a character, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of their group to have that little the block. So anyhow, there's been a few discoveries. There's a number of ampersound jazz records from the 50s or 40s, and which I'll have to sort of sample. And here's a jazz art disc here of Jack Brokensha's quartet. Now he, with Ron Longhead was the fellow who did their arrangements, and he was a bit of a big force. He went to America and did a lot in Hollywood and other things, but as a younger man, he was playing in Melbourne, and Jack Brokenshaw was on the vibes.
I've heard of Brockenshaw.
Yeah, so Brokenshaw, I'm thinking of Brokenshaw. Ron Longhead was the pianist, and I think Edwin Duff sung with this group.
All right.
But this one's just a quartet with Ron Longhead, Errol Bidle tenor, and John Mason bass, and Jack Brokenshaw on the vibes. Now, it's really, really scratched, so I haven't even sampled it, to be honest. So we'll just give it a go and see what happens. If it works, it works. If not, we'll just we'll abort and find something else. But it's the title took my attention. It's Serenade to a Bad-Tempered Clavier.
That's a good. There's a few things around the good-tempered clavier.
Yes, I love it.
He called it the well-tempered clavier, didn't he?
He certainly did. Well, here we go. This is the Bad Tempered Clavier. It's on a Jazz Art, which I think was a Clements label. I think it was, anyhow. Now, we'll do a slip start and see what happens. Yes, I was going to have bought that, but yeah, that's what happens when you use a record to chop vegetables on. That record is in as bad condition as I've heard. But we got the sample, we got the sonic experience.
It was okay, it was good.
You've got to listen beyond the noise sometimes. My ears do the filtering. But I might try and use a different stylus profile and see if I can get something better out of it. But it's probably in the public domain anyhow. But I haven't seen that many jazz art records around. Not that I've been a aficionado of later jazz, but it says obtainable only at Clements Musical Services in Melbourne. So good old Clements.
Oh yes, I remember.
Russell Street.
They're in the city, weren't they?
Yeah, I think they're still there. Yeah, you probably could still go in and get one. You might be able to still get it. They might still issue records.
Oh, gee, I don't know whether they're still there.
Maybe not. Well, they were there a little while ago. I remember going to Clements, getting some cello strings when I was a student.
Oh, okay. Yeah, as a music shop, yeah. I was thinking of them more as a record place.
Yeah, as a music shop. Quite a few discs of Jim Davidson and his Palais Royal, and also with the ABC Orchestra in the days well before Brian May took over. Jim Davidson had a gig with the ABC and also at the Palais Royal. So
he had several programs, I think.
Yeah, I think he was pretty prolific. He had a very high profile. We'll have to defer this to Mr. J when we catch up. But there's some pretty good spirited big band performances with his group. They're very commercial, but they're very listenable as well.
Seems like there was a lot more employment around for musos in those days.
Oh yeah, I remember my music professor, Henri Tuzo. I studied the cello with him, and when I was in high school. Now he sort of imbued a lot of. I think I've spoken about him before, but he was he studied in Berlin in the late 20s, early 30s. Yeah, he was in Berlin. He had these amazing stories about Berlin when it was just...
God.
Yeah, and all of the crazy things he got up to. He was like a big kid. And we'd play for about, I don't know, we might play for 40 minutes or something, and then talk for the next 3 hours.
I can just imagine.
He had so many stories. He was a great raconteur. He had these fabulous stories of Berlin, and he painted these amazing pictures. But he also told me a lot about Melbourne music scene in the 20s, because his dad and his sister, and he also played in the Capitol Theatre Orchestra. In fact, I've got a 78 here, which has almost certainly got him on it. I'll save it up for tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah.
And, so he was playing at the Capitol Theatre, and they had a full symphony orchestra. And he said that he was earning, as a 16-year-old in Melbourne, he was earning £9 a week.
What?
Yeah, and the average salary was just between £2 and £3 a week. And he had a gig at the... he left school early, and... he was playing at the Alexandra Hotel up near Spencer Street, and he played in the Capitol Theatre Orchestra, and I think he played in one or two other groups. He freelanced a bit as a kid. And he said there was so much work, and it was really high paid. And he said he saved up so much money that he was able to go overseas and instantly organise lessons with Emanuel Feumann, who was one of the greatest cellists in the world in Berlin. And he was able to afford the lessons simply because he'd saved up, playing in gigs in Melbourne in the 1920s.
Isn't that amazing?
Really interesting. And it just painted a remarkable picture of the music life in Melbourne. And that, of course, captured my imagination as a 14-year-old. And I sit there salivating hearing these tales. But,
yeah.
But it's really quite fascinating. And there was music everywhere. They had the Regent Theatre had an orchestra, the Capitol had an orchestra, the Conservatorium had a couple of orchestras. Which used to give regular concerts at the Myer Music Bowl. And in fact, Henry used to conduct the Conservatorium Orchestra of the Myer Music Bowl, but they'd have audiences, 20, 30,000 at a con orchestra concert. So I think live music had a different sort of, prominence to what it does now. I think it was far more accessible in lots of ways.
Well, I suppose the live music impetus was largely through a relatively low emphasis on recordings and TV and radio and stuff.
I think it's a product of just the whole culture, really. And, mass media, of course, changed everything. As soon as radio and TV gained prominence and gramophone records, people could start listening at home. Don't have to go out as often.
And, of course, there was a lot more music made at home in those days, I guess.
Yes, that's right. People just entertained at home and just found their own sort of way to do things. But I got a sense of a real cafe culture back then.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and
It
all
would have been pretty enjoyable, really.
yeah, it would have been fun, and all the hotels had orchestras and groups, and I suppose that sort of prevailed a bit, because But and then later on, of course, all of the advertisements were all made by live musicians as well, and that was a very big employer for musicians at that time. But look, I don't lament the differences. We just live in different times, different priorities, and
No good lamenting, that's right. But and we've got advantages now too. But I mean,
totally.
The do-it-yourself, do-it-at-home studio couldn't have been dreamed of in those days.
Absolutely not. And the music was very sort of probably quite dull on the whole.
It wasn't super good, but it served the same purpose, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It served a purpose of just providing something, lively and a live music experience, atmospherics. But what interests me is that, they wouldn't have had amplification back then, and they had big venues. So I don't know how they would have cut it, because I suppose we're just so used to having sound support now.
Play as loud as you can.
Yeah, I suppose they just did, find a corner of the room and project. I know that a lot of the bands, like the Green Mill, they had a band at each end of the room.
Really?
So if you're in the middle, you could sort of move whatever sphere you want. You could do something quite paralytic.
The battle of the bands.
Yeah, that's right. That was
Stood in the middle, you could enjoy them both.
You could. You could have a partner on one side of the room and you could be on the other. Never the two could meet. So, who knows? I mean, it's interesting times, but it is good to get a snapshot of the way it was, and just the magnitude, just the amount of live stuff. I've got quite a lot of Palm Court music here, and one day I'll have to dig it up and see if I can get an ensemble together and re-record some of it, because it's kitschy, but it is and it can be a bit drollsome, but it's fun to play, and it does create an atmosphere. So maybe. Anyhow, I've got a Jim Davidson disc on the thing. It's a track called Fair and Warmer, and it's almost certainly from 1933.
Like a weather forecast.
Yeah, that's right. Anticipating change, and spring is here tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to having warmer days. It'll do a lot for my spirits, because I tell you what, the cold winter days and the atmospherics in our broader sphere don't do a lot for the constitution, I don't think.
Yeah, get you down.
Yeah, it certainly does. Oh God. Anyhow, looking forward. Let's hear Fairer and Warmer. of distortion there. It wasn't tracking so well, that disc, but there we go. That was Jim Davidson and the ABC band, I think. Is it? Or is it the Palais Royal? Palais Royal in that case, and Fairer and Warmer from the early 1930s, 33, 34 is when these Regals came out. And, yeah, a bit of upbeat band sounds from the time. Yeah,
right.
It's good fun. Having a bit of an Australian sample here. Just looking at a new batch, which we'll sort of go through with a bit more care in the next few weeks and see if we can extract a few goodies for the program, and meandering along as we do. So, there's one classic one here, and it's completely different, totally different genre. It is, I haven't even sampled it, but I've just got to hear it. It's an early, this is recorded in Melbourne in 1928 or 29 at the Vocalion Studios in Burke Street up the top. Burke Street or Collins Street, can't remember, up near Spencer Street Station. And they made quite a few, or sort of one of Australia's first big commercial recording outfits. But here we have a xylophone solo by Edna Davis. I have no idea who Edna Davis was, but she was obviously a local person who made a record. And she was good enough to make a recording. So
xylophone.
Yeah, so let's have a listen to Edna play. Well, we've got a choice. We could hear the Cuckoo Waltz.
I think Edna was a very common name in those days.
Yeah, my grandmother was Edna. Yes.
Yes, well, I have a de facto auntie called Edna. I say she was a friend of the family, but we called her auntie.
Oh, right. Yeah, my grandmother was Edna, and they all called her Ed. But Over the Waves or Cuckoo Waltz? What do you reckon?
Oh, yeah.
Which one? You choose.
Well, would say that again?
Over the Waves or Cuckoo Waltz?
No, Over the Waves is the big one, the big waltz.
Okay, Over the Waves. We'll give this a go. It's a Juventino Rosas.
Do, 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 do.
Oh, okay. Well, let's give this a go. We'll slap it on the platter, and hopefully this one won't mistrack. I've got to have a few stylus problems with this old ELAC cartridge, but that's another story. Let's have a listen to Edna and Over the Waves, recorded in Melbourne in 28-ish. so much Elan. She
Oh,
made
yeah.
it to the end.
It was all there.
Yes. Oh, that is just brilliant. Edwardian kitsch at its best. Yes.
Yeah.
Good old Edna. Edna Davis playing the xylophone at the Vocadian Studios in Melbourne in 1928 or 29, I don't know. I can't date it specifically, but it's a bit of a novelty record from that time. We might save up the other side. I'll see if I can find a better stylist profile for that one. But anyhow, bit of fun. Also found some recordings of the Comedy Harmonicists.
Oh, yeah, they're really good. A
Yes.
class act.
Yeah, they were. And I can't remember, did they come out to Australia?
They did.
Right.
We did a program on them.
I seem to remember I did, but it's sort of...
The comedy harmonist and there's the comedian harmonist.
I know. There was... They differentiate. Now, what was the one I did?
I think it was the comedian harmonist.
I think it was a different group, yeah.
Well, hang on. It had some of the same members, but there was an issue about them not continuing when they went to Germany. I've lost the thread of it all, but
Yeah.
they're certainly, one grew out of the other.
Yes. I remember early days of doing these missions, or a few years ago when I first started doing, I did do a program and I was riffing on I think there was a Radio National program about them or something, and then caught my attention and we found some recordings, but I've forgotten the specifics, to be honest. But yeah, and so can't flesh things out beyond the fact that they were, as you say, a really great class act, magnificent, fantastic musicians, and they made some great records. So here's one called You're as Sweet to Me as Sugar in Coffee.
Oh,
So we'll put this on, and I suppose you could call this Weimar Republic music, really.
I think you could.
Yeah.
Du passt so gut zu mir wie Zucker zum Kaffee. Du passt so gut zu mir, so wie das A zum B. Der Gedanke, den du denkst, ja denselben denk ich längst. Und ich weiß schon früh, was du gerade schenkst. Du passt so gut zu mir wie Blumenduft zum Mai. So wie die Sterne Nacht, so Liebesträumerei. Wir verstehen uns wunderbar, ja wir sind direkt ein Paar. Ohne dich bin ich die Hälfte, das ist klar. Stundenlang könnte ich dir sagen, wie du zu mir passt, dass man uns nicht trennen kann. Wenn du es sehr gerne hörst und Zeit für mich noch hast, dann fang ich noch einmal an. Du passt so gut zu mir wie Zucker zum Kaffee. Du passt so gut zu mir, so wie das A zum B. Der Gedanke, den du denkst, ja dieselbe denk ich längst. Und ich weiß schon früh, was du mir abends schenkst.
There you go, the Carnival.
Oh, yeah, that was
Comedy
excellent.
House. Yeah, they're beautiful. They're really just such seasoned performers, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to have perfect pitch to do that.
I think so. I think so. They're really matched, and there's just a wonderful warmth in their homogeneity.
I think so. They sound as though they're related, don't they?
They certainly do. It's just a beautiful blend. I've always enjoyed that group. Well, I'll have to
Doing
revisit.
the instrument impersonations.
It doesn't say anything on the label, but I think that they are doing all of the sounds. I think it's.
Oh, they are. They certainly.
Yeah.
It was, what do you call it, a cappella.
That's right. Very similar to what the Mills Brothers did.
Exactly right. Same thing.
Yeah, but a very seasoned act. And I'll have to go back to my earlier program and listen to what I had to say about them.
Maybe a repeat. Do a repeat.
If I could find it, it may not even be recorded. The first 6 months of programs I didn't log at all. In
It was
fact,
one of the very early ones that I was involved in.
Yes. And we did one on the Weintraub Troubadours as well. There was a group from Eastern Europe that came out to us, or they sort of ended up in Australia by default. It's a bit of a tragic story, really, because they were sort of isolated here. I think they were Jewish expats, but things didn't work out that well.
Oh, no.
It's a bit of a tragic story. I remember there's a few of their recordings on Polish labels and things, and we did do a feature on them. And
I must have missed that, but I would remember the name.
Yeah, the Weintraub Troubadours. And that followed on from a program I heard on Late Night Live or something, I think it was. And I thought, I've got to riff on this, I've got to find out more. And and someone had written a book, and I think I found a copy of it or found reference to it. And went from there. But yeah, comedy harmonists or the harmonicists were very excellent exponents of the Berlin, the art of music making in Berlin in that remarkable period. And
it was here around about the time of that musical. What now I should know?
Oh, Mac the Knife?
No, it's a musical.
Oh, okay.
Sally Bowles and Joel Grey was in it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh.
I'll think of it in a minute.
That's all right. Yeah. It's a fascinating time in European history, a melting pot of influences and some would say debauchery. I know my cello professor said it was like that. He said there were clubs everywhere. So. And he said that everyone was using Spanish fly, which I think was another way to... I think it was
get yourself excited or get her excited.
Yeah,
rather.
I think so. Yes, it was all a part of that culture. Yes, the Viagra culture. But I remember hearing him talk about all of this. I was thinking, do I really need to hear this? But yeah, it was all very, very entertaining at the time. Yeah, dear old Henry. Now, what else? I think, another record that I found, my laughing record collection. There's about 6 of them, and these were discs made, I think they were made during the First World War, or about that time, to try and build morale. And they're called laughing records, and it features someone playing a musical instrument really badly, and then everyone bursting out laughing, and just going into hysterics.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre, really bizarre stuff. But every label had their laughing record. It sort of caught on. And then at the end, much later on, Spike Jones picked up on the idea and they did their really hilarious version, sort of poking fun at the records which poke fun, if you know what I mean. So, look, we'll have a listen to an early one. This goes back to, it's a Winner record. It's the budget label for Edison Bell. And, we'd have to go back to the beginning of the First World War. It's a pretty early record. It's got a crack in it. But what we can do, I'll try and put it through the processor, and I'm hoping that systems will hold up. We'll give it a go anyhow and see what happens. But this is really scraping the bottom of the kitsch barrel, I'm afraid. But why not? VK3SL.
And VK3JR.
Yes, yes, we know. It's strained beyond the edge of credulity, I think.
Yeah, well,
That's what they did. Raise the morale, laughing records. They'd sit around the gramophone and they'd all, I suppose it'd be a cue. It's like laughing therapy. I remember there was a laughing therapy where people had to sort of force themselves to laugh. It's bizarre. Really.
I had a very dear friend who's now no longer with us, and he had the need of therapy, and he tried this laughing therapy. In fact, he joined a group of other people. It was a sort of a group therapy.
Yeah.
And he said it helped him quite a lot.
Okay. Wow.
Bizarrely, I mean, like you, I can't imagine it would.
No.
I can't imagine doing it myself.
I can't imagine forcing myself to laugh.
Exactly.
It's a strange one, that is. But maybe they put these records on. They got all their laughing records out.
I don't know I'm not sure how they started off. You'd need a starter, wouldn't you?
You need something. Oh, I don't know.
You can't just laugh out of nothing.
No.
More than you can cry out of nothing.
I know, that's right. It's very strange. Well, maybe they had some bizarre theatrical way to rein people in. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, I find that one all a bit bemusing.
No, that's a movie that I was trying to think of.
Yep.
Five March Germany, it was Cabaret.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep.
Do you know Cabaret?
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't know it, but I know of it.
No, I went and asked Kathy.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Well, look, we can save up a few more laughing records when we all need a laugh, and we can line them up and hear what other people did with the subject. The best of all is the Spike Jones one, but I will save that for another missions because it is actually hilarious. And
one thing about laughing, though, it is very infectious, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yes, we often have family laughing tidal waves. And it can really it can be unstoppable.
Yeah, it can. I often, especially when I was young, get to the point where, especially at school, when I'm not supposed to be laughing, I couldn't stop myself from laughing.
Yeah, I know exactly how that feels. Yes. Yeah,
just about burst
trying to stop. You just sort of get the giggles, and it just keeps. It's infectious. It consumes you. Yeah, I know. But my sister and I used to be like that. Used to be some subjects, just really small things that'd trigger us.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah, it could be something really small, and we'd both be crying.
I know.
Our hearts out laughing.
No.
Yeah, and it's often some pictures in a book or someone's expression, and it just sort of triggered something that we could only explain to each other, but not to anybody else.
That was the worst of it. If someone said, "What are you laughing at?"
Yeah,
stupid child.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell them because it didn't mean anything.
I know. It's disconcerting as a teacher when the class starts with
totally.
starts to laugh, and you sort of think, "What are they laughing at? I'm not that funny. I'm not."
Yeah, they're laughing at me. What have I said?
Yeah, what have I said? I'm not trying to be funny. And then they all start bursting out laughing. So, yeah, you've just got to go with it, I think. As soon as you start to get too serious.
The malice that you might imply is not there, really.
Well, yeah.
One would hope not.
No. Well, I think you just got to just go with the flow and
join
in with them for a bit, and then they realise, okay. Yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, laughing therapy, it's like a form of primal therapy when people go into a padded cell and just go wild and sort of just burn a lot of energy, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. I can't really imagine doing that either.
No.
Must be too inhibited.
Yeah, I can sort of get into my music in a sort of really intense way if I'm feeling, deep, raw emotion. And I find that helps a lot, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, just
I
a
can
place.
become that excited by listening to music.
And I suppose you can choose what you listen to sort of give you
Cut
that.
yourself off.
Yeah, well, it sort of becomes a part of your expression in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I can get the irresistible urge to move.
I think that's very natural. It's good. It's healthy.
It's good.
Yeah, I think so. It's cool. It's good. And
That's why dancing is such good
Well,
therapy.
it is. I think dancing is a fantastic therapy. I never forget. I had some lessons once with a cellist, and she. This was all a bit confronting, but it was actually profoundly liberating. She got me to dance. I mean, can't dance for the life of me, but she gave me some really long coloured scarves,
Yeah.
really long silk scarves, and tied them to a piece of like a piece of dowel, and got me to move or to dance or to sort of evoke the
Yeah,
emotions
yeah.
of the piece through gesture, very broadly. And it was a way to break me out of my inhibitions playing, is to
Sure.
sort of get bigger picture and bigger, wider, broader gestures in the music. And it was really quite a successful way forward. And it's just that as a culture, I think we are naturally a bit inhibited about movement unless it's done in a very organised way.
They do a lot better in Europe.
I think they do. I think because dancing and moving is just so much in their DNA.
With the gypsies.
That's right, and that's why they play so freely. I think often is there's that sort of naturalness in evoking emotion through movement, and that parallels through music and many other things, art as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting one. But I'd like to understand more about the potential to
Sure.
express ourselves. I remember when I was having lessons in the UK years ago, my professor used to get me to play the same piece with completely different emotions, just to get me to connect with it with a
That's
different.
interesting.
So I'd play a Bach Allemande or something, and then I'd play it 4 times and he'd give me really complex emotional states to represent.
Oh, no.
Okay, and he'd just say, let's just try it like
Almost
this.
acting classes.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Frank.
It is. Yeah. Hi.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Good to
Yeah.
hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's like acting, I suppose. It's all very much a part of
strip
the
it back
same.
and then now try this scene, but given that this has just happened to you, or you're feeling this,
Yeah.
or yeah.
Totally. It's theatre sports, really. But no, I think it's all worthwhile. I think we are born to express, and we can find any means to do it. It's a part of our emotional and physiological need, I think, and to repress these things is not such a good idea.
Bad idea.
Yeah, no, I think we've got to be upfront. Yeah, now, Mr. OP, I've got some records to play for you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just
I actually started playing it. Discovered this CD that I bought in Germany 2 years ago, or
yeah.
18 months ago.
Mm.
And it's a Bach, the Suite Anglaise on harpsichord.
Oh, fabulous.
And
Beautiful.
it was playing at a particular castle called the Wartburg that we visited, and
Nice.
I think somehow the pieces might be associated with that in some respect. It's where Martin Luther sort of was almost exiled, or wrote
Okay.
a lot of his work, and
Sure.
I remember hearing this piece. I thought, and I do like harpsichord, so I bought it, and it sat in my photographic backpack, and I discovered it when I was up the snow. I was digging through and went, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
So I actually popped it on earlier in the CD player and went, that's rather nice.
Very good. English
Sounds
suites.
really good.
Yeah, fabulous. I love the English suites and the French suites. They're wonderful music. In fact, I remember transcribing movements from them for flute and cello. One point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they work very nicely as 2 parts, and beautiful music, and it would sound lovely on the harpsichord. And that's great. Well, you have to let me know the performance. We'll cue it up and play
Wonderful.
it. Play it. Wonderful indeed.
Afternoon, Mr. Wonderful.
Yes, and well, look.
And the new guitar arrived today.
Oh, congrats! Oh, well, this is a good story. Well, you'll have to give us the. Have you unboxed it yet? Have you filmed yourself?
I
on
played. Yeah, I had a bit of a play. Plugged it into my little my headphone type effects amplifier, and just
Yeah.
went through the various sounds that the pickups let you have, and which is, quite amazing. They are. I mean, it's one of the reasons I picked it was because of the pickup system in it.
Sure.
They're active, and as I said, Fishmen, and they're quite revolutionary. And it's quite extraordinary the palette of sounds that are available.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, how does it feel underhand? Has it sort of got a nice?
Yeah, it is. It's light.
Action?
The sculpting on the body, unlike a traditional Telecaster, it fits the body really well. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
And the neck is like a Telecaster neck, so it's a little bit thinner, and it runs a compound radius. So at the nut, so furthest away from the bridge, it is a 12-inch radius neck, and as it comes down to the 24th fret close to the pickups, it's a 16-inch radius. So it changes radius as it goes along.
Right.
And they say that for accessibility and speed of playing, and I like it. It's a bit different to some of my others, but it's certainly a different feel, and I'm finding I'm having to be a lot lighter on the touch because of the gauge of strings in the neck. It's very easy to push a string and shift the pitch dramatically more than on some of the others, but
sure.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so the tension and the action is a little bit lower than...
Yeah, lower, lighter. It's very much I've got sort of one other guitar that's similar, and but a little bit of a different setup. But this is very much designed for sort of quick.
Yes, for fast movements.
Fast movement action and stuff. And
yes.
So now I've just got to get myself to be able to play fast.
Oh, you'll be right. Just do.
That's a challenge for you, Frank.
No, you'll be right. Just do drills. I've been getting students to do drills all day today.
Yeah, I've got to start doing exercises like the spider and all that sort of stuff, and just getting them going.
Even if you just for 5 minutes a day, and do it with dotted rhythms. That's the secret. And if you do it with dotted rhythms, it gets you to sort of get hair trigger reactions.
So what are dotted rhythms?
Oh, double dots. Yeah, so you just, instead of playing da 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 da, you go pop 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 pop, and then the other way.
Yeah, so you're doubling on some notes.
Yeah. So you're lengthening. You're lengthening every second note. Or bar, yeah. So measured trills with dotted rhythms is a very powerful way to get your hair trigger control and finger independence. And you can do it on the piano, you can do it on any instrument, but it works.
Yeah, and the other recommendation they keep saying too is doing it with a metronome or a click, so that you're forced to play on the timing more accurately. And
absolutely need to have be really pulsed with the action relative to an extrinsic.
I don't have a metronome. I'm in sort of a bit of strife. I very easily wander.
Well, I think it's natural.
I picked up. I mean, I've got a couple of ways of doing it here, but one of the ones I picked up that I've been using occasionally is, I remember years ago, and they probably still do them occasionally. Aldi had their musical instrument sales, and they had some guitars and various other bits and pieces, but they have good, they have guitar stands which are quite fine, and other bits and pieces. One of the things they were selling was a cheap electronic guitar tuner.
Oh, yep.
With a sort of a TFT little display with a meter sort of simulation.
Yep. Is that a clip-on one?
Built into that is a metronome.
Oh, very good.
And you can dial up, literally digitally, you can dial up the BPM and away you go.
It's easy, isn't it?
Yep. They're fine. They're built into a lot of synths. I've got plenty of metronomes, but I really need one when I'm playing a keyboard.
Yeah. An essential piece of kit, and smartphones. Metronome Online is just a browser app.
I've got one app on there. It's a chord finder for some of the esoteric chords when you read something. Whatever that is, really. Okay, what the hell is that?
Yeah, good. Dave,
do you ever play acoustic?
Yeah, I've got I've got a couple of acoustics, good ones. I've got more than a couple, but I've got two very good ones. One's a Maton Tommy Emmanuel, and the other one is actually a Yamaha, but it's a classical. I bought it because it's more a classical setup, so it's more a classical neck, not quite as wide as a traditional classical neck, but very similar, with a pickup system in it, even though it's using the nylon and steel strings. And it's a slightly smaller body. It's a much softer sort of sound, but I love playing it.
It certainly sounds as though it'd be lovely to hear. Would it be embarrassing to tell us how many guitars you have?
I'll have to check. I think it's 9 or 10, and there's one on order still. So
it's good.
I don't feel guilty because I met a guy a couple of years ago at the ski lodge who he's played in bands and things, but and he picked up. I had that Yamaha there, and he said, "Oh, can I play?" Yeah, sure. And he tried it out, and he liked it, and we're having a chat, and he said, how many have you got? And at that stage I had 7 or 8. He said, oh, don't feel bad. He said, I've got 37 guitars and 11 amps. I go, oh, well, I need to get a few more then.
You're not trying, Frank.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, I have a similar number of synths, 10, not 37. And I'm going to unload them as soon as we get the opportunity.
Well, I've always wanted a synth.
There you go.
Well, stick around. No, I'm doing that because I'm getting a recording studio which is going to use software synths.
Oh, okay. So you're just going to use a MIDI keyboard as an interface and then drive everything from that?
Yep. That's about it.
It's exciting developments. That's all.
Now, I imagine there's some very good velocity-sensitive MIDI keyboards today.
I have a specific keyboard that works. It's made by a firm called Native Instruments, and it works works best with an Apple operating system called Logic Pro, and so it goes. It all sort of fits together, and it has a fair degree of accessibility built in, by which I mean that it is telling you by voice what it's doing.
Yeah, very good. Is that a full 88 keyboard? Full 88 key keyboard?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, nice. So you got the full concert grand experience.
It's 88 weighted keys. It's supposed to be a very good, and it plays like a very good. The only thing is, I'm used to playing synthesizers, which tend to be very light organ type keyboards, and this is full weighted piano, but it's much better for getting expression.
Yeah, I'll bet. And I'm assuming too. Does it have? Can you use pedals with it as well, so you can simulate damping and all that?
Yep. Plug them in.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, sounds good.
Oh.
The only thing that's not good is the way I play, but we can work on that.
No, that's all part of the journey. But,
well, that's all of us. Yeah? That's the great thing about music, isn't it? It doesn't matter where you're at. There's always room to improve.
There certainly is.
Absolutely.
It's a lifelong journey, and it's all about the process, and it can be very rewarding.
I'll have to pick your brain sometime about synths and that, because years ago, an ex of mine, she had a piano, an upright piano, and I used to sit there with the guitar, and at the very basic level that I had then was work out a chord voicing from, my fingering on the guitar. I went, okay, so that note's that's a E major chord or whatever, and that's okay. And then I started finding those notes on the piano. Oh, look at that, it does work. You can transpose, and so I started, nutting out a few basic chords on the piano. I quite enjoyed the experience, and I figured it'd be a great tool to have.
Yeah, would be happy to chat any time. Mr. Newbeck is also a synth aficionado.
Yeah, he's really into them too. I think he's doing similar things, setting up. Now he's moved into his new abode. I think he's got plans. Now, I'm afraid to say I'm getting the nod and the knock. I'm happy to leave the channel open if you want to chat.
I'm getting similarly nodded upon.
Yeah, look, I'd love to sort of develop this theme, and we'll save up this record. I've got a record to play you tomorrow or whenever you're next on, Frank OP, and I'd like to hear much more about your new guitar. You have to give us a day-to-day update about your creative pursuits. And
yes, please.
And most interested to hear.
I'll send you a pic through. I grabbed one just as I opened the case here.
Yeah, please. I'd like to see it very much. And also, if you're happy to do some samples, just send me an MP3. I know I'll whack them on.
Have you got any electronic specs on it?
On the guitar?
Yeah.
It's electronics. It uses the Fishman Fluence pickup system. It's made by Charvel, so they're now owned by Fender. So they're manufactured in Mexico under license from Fender. It's a Telecaster style, but with modern reliefs on the body, so it's much more playable. And it's also a little bit enhanced in that it has a 24 fret neck rather than 22, so it's got extended range on the fretboard. Locking tuners, good high quality bridge. The neck is roasted maple, so it's the body's finished in a satin black, and the roasted maple gives it a sort of a dark cream colour for the neck and fretboard and the sort of machine head, the tuning head.
That's pretty top end.
Yeah, it is. It's a high-quality instrument, and it's interesting. I became aware of them a little over a year ago, and it was through one of those dives on YouTube one night, looking at various things of music and instruments and stuff. a couple of guys reviewed these things, and one in particular, you know, he got one of these. He bought it, like he gets many guitars sent to him by the manufacturers, but he bought this particular one on spec, and he literally headed up with, he said, this is a Telecaster that Fender will never build. The quality at the price point is amazing, and the finish and the playability, and he said, plus this pickup system is something else too. So and he demoed it quite well through an amplifier and all the different sounds, and talked about the construction and the finish, and there's some cleverness in it.
Sounds great. Well, I better go before the knot becomes unbearable. So.
Yes. Okay. Look, thank you for sharing that, Frank. That's really fascinating. I'd love to, please, any time if you want to do some comparison samples or something, make an MP3, just send them across, and I'll put it over, and we can talk about it, or any themes we can riff on to do with your new instrument.
Yeah, I'll have to start working some stuff out. I've just sent you a picture, so...
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to see that. And Frank Jr., all the very best. I wish you comfort.
Indeed. I thought things are looking up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, we'll hopefully tomorrow should be okay, and we'll keep the journey going.
Yes, look forward.
And what we'll do now is
are you going to do another hitchhike?
Yes, definitely. Now I will. I got a copyright, not a strike, but a excise. I haven't done it yet, but on the log from last night, so I've got to remove it if I want to keep the program up. So I'll do the trim sometime tonight. And but for today, I'll take measure and stop before that happens. So just advice to anyone listening, and I noticed Mr. Pirate's there. Thank you for your kind comments. And those listening on stream, if you do want to continue hearing the Hitchhiker's Guide, you'll have to go to the second streaming service, which can be found on my QRZ page or on the blog page as well, vk3sl.blogspot.com, and there's a link to that page there. So I was going to play a bit of psychedelic rock following on from Mr. Stew's suggestion, but we'll save that one up as well, and you've got lots of possibilities. So yeah, if you're on the stream, sorry folks, I'm going to have to cut